Hey folks, yesterday I had you doing some work with square roots again, but this time we were adding square roots together. So once again, I wanted to come on myself after you had a chance to watch your tutorial videos yesterday and just go over a few problems before you do a little bit more practice today. The key with adding square roots, as you heard on the videos yesterday, is that they have to be the exact same square root in order to add them. So, in other words, right now, this is square root of 3, this is square root of 12. You cannot put them together. You can only put them together if it was square root of 3 and square root of 3, or square root of 2 and square root of 2. So right now, we can't add these together. But as you saw yesterday, you can try to simplify each square root individually, and then you may be able to put them together. For example, here, 3 doesn't break down at all, but the 12 does. So if I break down the 12 into 4 times 3, there is a pair of 2's there that can come out. So I can simplify that square root of 12. That's what we were working on last week. So this can become square root of 3 plus square root of 12. We take the pair of 2's, we take the 2 out, and it's 2 root 3. So the square root of 12 becomes 2 square root of 3. Now we can combine these because we have square root of 3 and square root of 3. And when you combine them just as if it was variables. You have 2 square root of 3 here, and if there's no number in front, just like with a variable, there's a 1. So 1 square root of 3 plus 2 square root of 3 makes 3 square root of 3. Okay? So when you're adding square roots, it's a lot like working with variables. You need like terms when you're working with variables. You need like roots when you're working with square roots. And just like with variables, you add the coefficients and the root stays the exact same. Okay? Let's do a couple more. So this problem here has 3 square roots. Okay, and so once again, the way it is right now, they're all different. Square root of 20, square root of 6, square root of 24. So we can't add them at all. But maybe we can break them down, simplify them, and then there might be some like roots that we can combine. So I'm going to break down the square root of 20. That breaks down into 4 times 5, and 4 is 2 times 2. So there's a pair of 2's. So that pair of 2's, the 2 comes out, and it ends up being 2 root 5 for the square root of 20. Square root of 6 does not break down at all because it breaks down into 2 times 3, but there's no pairs there that you can take out. So the square root of 6 is already in lowest terms. And then the square root of 24, well, let's see, what goes into 24? 6 and 4. And then again, the 4 has got a pair of 2's in it. 6 breaks down into 2 times 3, but that's not going to help us at all. So the square root of 24, I can take out the 2 from that pair of 2's. And then what's left underneath is still the 6, the 2 times the 3, which I'm just going to leave as a 6. All right, so I simplified the square root of 20. I simplified the square root of 24. And then the square root of 6 did not simplify. But now you can see that there is something that I can combine. I can't combine all of them, but I can combine these two right here because they're both square roots of 6. So I have 1 square root of 6 plus 2 square root of 6. Those two I can combine. That makes 3 square root of 6. Now this one, since it's a square root of 5, does not combine with that one. So just like when you have variables and you have different terms, sometimes your answer isn't going to come out to be just a single term. Sometimes your answer is going to have 2 terms because you can't combine them. So that's as far as we can go with this. That's our lowest terms. 2 square roots of 5 plus 3 square roots of 6. Final answer. Okay? So in that case, we could combine those two, but we could not combine it with the square root of 5 because that is a different root. Okay? One more. Okay, so here's the final one I'm going to do with you for today. This has got some subtraction in it, but that really doesn't change anything other than the fact that you're just going to be subtracting. Same idea. Just like with variables, you can only combine, meaning add or subtract, like roots. So right now there's no like roots. But again, let's try to break down some of these roots and see if we can make it happen. So the square root of 24, we already did that, right? But I'll just do it out again. Breaks down to 4 times 6, and then that has a pair of 2's there. So that pair of 2's comes out with the negative 3. So I'll have negative 3 times the 2, and then left underneath, you'll have this 6, which doesn't have any pairs. So final answer on that is going to be negative 6 root 6. Okay? So I broke down the square root of 24. That came out to be 2 root 6. And then I multiplied by the negative 3 that was already there. So negative 6 root 6. Now this 3 root 6 does not break down at all. 6 only breaks down into 2 and 3. There's no pairs. So that doesn't break down at all. And I'm going to just bring that down. Now that's a good sign that they both are root 6. That means we're going to be able to combine those in a minute. Okay? But let's just break down that square root of 8 just to make sure and see if we can combine that at all. So minus 2 square root of 8. So I'll break that down into 4 times 2. And then the 4 has, again, got a pair of 2's. So the square root of that 2 times 2 is going to be a 2 on the outside. So we have the minus 2 that was already there. And now we have the 2 that we bring out from taking the square root of that pair. And then you have this little 2 left underneath. A lot of 2's. So keep track of them. The negative 2 that was already there, this 2 that came out from taking the square root of the pair, and then this 2 is left underneath. So ultimately, after you multiply, it becomes minus 4 root 2. Okay? So we break down everything, and now we see what we can combine. And sure enough, it's just these first 2 that we can combine, because this has got a square root of 6, this has got a square root of 6, this has got a square root of 2. So that's like having an X, and a Y. You can only combine the ones that are alike. Okay? So I'm going to combine these. Negative 6 square root of 6 plus 3 square root of 6 will make negative 3 root 6. And then this one, since it's a different square root, cannot be combined. So our final answer in lowest terms, negative 3 square root of 6 minus 4 square root of 2. Okay? So when you're adding and subtracting with the square roots, again, it's a lot like adding and subtracting with variables. You can only combine things if you have like terms. What you need to try to do, though, is break down the square roots to see if there are like terms. Because sometimes it may not look as if there are, and there is. When you go to combine, just like with variables, you combine the coefficients, and you keep the root part the exact same. Okay? Hope that helps a little bit. Contact me in my office hours if you have questions. All right? We'll get through it.